Hi, I'm Terry,
And I'm
and
Brian.
you're Brian.
Yes, Brian
Okay,
Cromer.
all right, and we're here for our queer chat, and we are the cool kids.
Are we the cool kids?
We are the cool kids
Okay.
because the school year is starting.
Yes.
Yes, and there are people of all ages that go to school, from
Right.
little bitty children,
To
preschoolers.
my age. I'm going to be starting my second year of seminary.
Okay, and even to my age, I've still got some VA credits left.
Oh, wow.
I could take some classes.
There you go.
But I spend too much time with you.
Well,
Yeah. How are you going to
you're
have
learning
time?
more this way.
Yes.
And I'm certainly learning more this way, sir.
Yes. Yes. My mama told me about boys like you. So anyway, um, when we go back to school, everybody has issues. You have the first day anxiety, trying to find where you're going, if you're driving, where to park, where the bathrooms are.
Can
all
I
the-
tell you on that, where you're going, driving, all that stuff, where the bathrooms are? On my first time that I was moving into Furman, my dad and I were heading up, and my stomach was so upset. I think even though it's
Oh,
like
no.
a 30-minute drive,
Yeah.
we had to stop a couple times for me to use the restroom. I was so nervous. So I know people can certainly relate to having that angsty first day of school, just the
Yeah.
unknown, but all the opportunities.
And that was from anxiety, not from something you ate the day before.
No, it was anxiety.
There's one restaurant, and I won't name it, but nearby here,
Uh-huh.
and I've eaten at them before, but every time I eat at that one location, I get sick. And I've figured something out, not to eat at that location.
Wow.
Yeah, but I don't
More
know.
insight.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm not going to tell y'all where it is. You just have to go get sick yourself and find out.
There you go.
Yeah, because I don't want to diss anybody. Um, so yes, so you've had the anxiety,
Mhm.
and a lot of people just the normal anxiety,
Right.
and then LGBTQ people have
Right.
an additional set of
Right.
anxieties.
Right.
Is it an additional set, or is it a layered set? How do some of these take the place of others? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's always difficult when not only are you in a new place, but you're also, or when you go to school, we're also having to perform, right? We're always having to be someone that we're not in order
Yes.
to maybe fit in those first days of school. So
Right.
that takes a lot of energy. And then it also takes a lot of energy, maybe if you are out and you are going to go and be your authentic self, there's still, I think, you're sort of putting up your guard.
Yes.
And you just always have to be on guard, and you're always watchful, and you're making sure that you're going to be safe. And so I think that's a lot of the anxiety that LGBTQ people and also other marginalized people, I think, when they're in a new space, always
Yeah.
sort of have that feeling of, do I belong here? Will I fit in? Will I be accepted? I think that's sort of a universal issue people face when and on that first day of school.
Yeah. But I feel like years ago when I was in school, I'd have to think it's been probably 13 years since I was in school.
Okay.
And well, it took me a while to finish fourth grade. So anyway, yeah. So what we're going to do today, though, is Brian has been in school more recently than I have, like right now.
Yes.
And so we're going to focus on his experiences. And what we're really going to take a look at is what it was like for him in school as a closeted gay person.
Right,
Is that a good
okay.
description?
Yes. Yeah. That would
Okay.
be college.
Yes. And then when you came out and how that experience was.
Right.
Okay.
Fantastic.
So let me start out with the beginning point.
Mhm.
You knew you were gay.
Right.
When did you know you were gay?
Well, I know I was gay probably in 1984.
So
I was 100% certain. I
okay.
was super attracted to the guys in the Sports Illustrated magazine. My parents had gotten me a subscription to. That was sort of an epic fail on their part if they were trying to get me more interested in sports.
The swimsuit issue didn't matter to you?
No, it was like the college
Yeah.
football thing with all the new college quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And then that 1984 Olympic U.S. men's gymnastic team, that was another, that really sank me. But so then but I was really fighting it the whole way. And it was only my senior year of college that I finally got to the point where I could accept that I could be gay and Christian.
Wow. So what was the fight like? And how did it like rise in crescendo, or, how
Oh
did
yeah,
that feel?
definitely. Yeah, definitely. I was fighting it. One of the most ironic moments was I went with my girlfriend to a Fellowship of Christian Athletes retreat
Mhm.
at a Baptist conference center, Ridgecrest, which
Yes.
some of our listeners may be familiar with that.
I've been there several times. Beautiful.
And there I actually met a guy, and we were in a Bible study, and he was talking about how, you know, he needed some prayers because he had a secret sin. And I don't think anyone knew what he was talking about, but I felt like I'd gotten hit by a truck. And so
Okay.
he and I had a conversation after that, kind of had this horrible dating episode relationship where we would, just try and pray away the gay, but then we would fail, and then we would wake up the next morning and it would just be a lot of guilt and everything. So that was really terrible. And I was constantly trying to deal with that. And I went to the chaplain at Furman University, where I went to school, and talked with him, and that's really what transformed my life. And so as I left Furman, I was embarking on a graduate study program at Syracuse, New York.
Okay, so what, were there, when you were in school and had not yet come out, you were about to,
Right.
though you may not have known it at the time, what pressures did you, I'm trying to get a feel for what it felt like while you were in school and not out. What did you feel?
Yeah. So, it's interesting because there's a battle between being yourself and then having to suppress any sort of feelings or mannerisms or any sort of looks that might kind of give you away. And so it was really difficult because I ended up having to not be friends with certain people because they're super hot and I found them distracting. There was a guy I was studying with who was just in a class, incredibly good looking. And it was one of the most bizarre kind of moments. Like I remember he and I were going to go and volunteer at a Republican fundraiser, college Republican fundraiser.
Yeah.
And so I went to pick him up, and he was just arriving on his bike.
Oh,
Like we were supposed to be in our suits, ready to go.
yeah.
And you know me, I don't like being late, but here he comes. He arrives on his bike, it's all hot and sweaty. And so he's like, "Oh, well, just it won't take me very long. Why don't you just come upstairs?"
And watch me. Oh, never mind.
Well, that's the strange thing. He was like, "Oh, there's some magazines over there you can look at. Just sit on my bed." And so he directs me to some workout magazines. I'm sitting on his bed, flipping through workout magazines. Well, he is in direct line of sight, like in his shower, but he doesn't close the door. And then at one point, just opens his shower curtain and says, "Those are really good magazines." And he's standing there naked, and I'm trying not to look. And then he's like closing that. And so,
I think it was a setup.
well, ironically, this dude is straight. He is very straight. I don't know if he was just showing off and knew I was gay, but we'd be over there studying, and it was like a porn movie. Like he'd be like, "Oh, it's so hot in here," and his shirt would be off, and I was like at risk of making a B in that class, and I had to like drop him as a study partner because I was not learning anything about the subject matter
Right.
that we were being tested on. I'll say that.
Okay.
So that was sort of my experiences of really having to, navigate being friends with certain people because I just would get distracted and I couldn't.
Were you picked up on gaydar?
Probably.
Okay.
I think I would get checked, and then that would make me even more nervous.
Yeah.
Because then I felt like, okay, well, I have to be even less of who I am because just sort of even trying my best to suppress these feelings, people are still clocking me.
Right. Right.
And so I assume everyone knows what clocking means, right?
Yes. Well, hey, gaydar is just that sense as you move through life and you meet people or encounter people, and you just sense that they're gay.
Right.
And some of it is stereotypical, and I don't
Some
know.
of it's when two guys like crop,
Their
like kind of
eyes.
are walking, your eyes lock
Uh-huh.
for a little too long.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the
They
The
can't,
real
yeah.
sort of giveaway on the gaydar thing is sort of
Yeah.
when you're like, okay. And then especially like when you pass each other,
Mhm.
if like both of you turn around,
There you go.
that's as much as like, hey, come over
Yeah. I'm having to get neck therapy.
and
Anyway, so, and then clocked is when somebody understands, they see through you
yes,
and they sense that you are in fact gay
right.
or LGBTQ
Yeah,
of some
or
flavor.
trans.
Yeah. And so, I get clocked every day and it's just part of my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And I'm saving up my money. Send your money to God, care of me, post office box. Oh, I'm not supposed to do that here?
Yeah, we haven't gotten the Swiss bank account set
Oh,
up
okay,
yet, and then we
okay.
need that Cayman attorney to be able
To,
do
to
it for
work
us.
it?
So
Okay,
can't get into all those details yet.
yeah, okay. And the corporation based in Delaware where there's low corporate taxes?
Right.
Yeah, got it. Anyway, so people see who I am, and it doesn't take long to figure out that I'm transgender. And especially when I'm not speaking in a high enough voice. And so right now I'm trying.
You're doing a great job, Don.
Yes. So it's easy to get clocked if you're transgender.
Yes.
And it's terribly disappointing and frustrating if you think you're doing real well
Mm.
and then you get clocked
Yeah.
and you think, man, what
Yeah.
can I do? So
But
anyway,
I can't really object if I get clocked wearing this fabulous shirt, though.
that's right. You wear some fabulous shirts.
Yes. So
And
I'm not as concerned about it now, but at the time, it is really kind of scary because then you feel like, what am I not doing right? I'm not living the standard, because I was trying to be a straight person,
yeah.
and I was failing miserably at that.
Well, no, you said it was scary. Let's key in on
Okay.
that for a minute. What were your fears?
I think the fear is people knowing the real me and not accepting me.
Okay.
And
Now-
then also it's sort of like at that point I'm trying my best to change. I'm trying my
Yeah.
best to be straight. I'm trying my best to pray away the gay. I'm trying to put aside all these feelings. And then when you get clocked, then people know,
Mhm.
they know, and you feel like, well, I'm failing at what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
And I think that's where maybe there's some, kind of shared experiences for us in that regard.
Well, one of the problems that everybody has is being able to be open to themselves and let others see in and be vulnerable. And so that's something that everybody has to deal with. For a person who's worried about being clocked,
Mhm.
it's not just the insecurity, it's the sense of complete danger.
Okay. Yeah.
I think. And it is scary. When I first started dressing, I would go to the VA hospital in Virginia, and they had this giant lobby, and I would go to a point where I could peek around the corner of this big lobby
Mhm.
and glance around and see if there might be anybody I know
Hmm.
sitting there before I went in.
Uh-huh.
And
Just
you know,
saying you that knew you as your
As-
prior self.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so but over time I got over it.
Okay.
So when you were in those times, you were trying to work through your experiences. Were you having any relationships with men at that point?
I just had the one relationship with the guy that I had met at the FCA, and that had really sort of ended pretty badly. I
Okay.
think, and I had I think like a lot of people do, you think, well, this gay relationship ended terribly, and I felt guilty, and he was a jerk. So then, of course, that means all gay relationships are going to end bad because,
I'm waiting
So
for
you
the
s-
fireworks.
yeah. So I think you just sort of say, yes, that was a huge mistake because that one relationship ended bad. It's
Yeah.
exactly what people said it would be, and really the only reason the relationship didn't work is because we were both fighting who we were.
Yeah.
And that's what it was that level of both of us were in so much guilt and
Yeah.
pain that you can't have a sustained
No.
relationship in that regard.
No.
Where you're being together is what's causing you pain. That's going to fail, obviously.
Yes, yes. So now let's go ahead to your final coming out and what that experience was like and how school was once you'd come out. So what brought you to the point where you were ready to come out?
Well, it was either accept myself or kill myself.
Okay.
So it was really, for me, it was a black and white decision. And then once I made the decision in one way, I was like, I didn't really feel any need to hide who I was at that point.
Okay.
So I came out to my fiance, my parents, my friends, and it was difficult. Uh, but it was also funny in a way because most of my friends ended up also being closeted gays. So that was like, it was like I was the first domino, and then it was like it's just,
Yeah.
it's very funny.
So if you are gay, you were gay, and you mentioned your fiance, I suppose, was a woman.
Yes,
Okay, so why did you, as a gay man, plan to get married, and why were you dating?
because
a girl?
that was the only option that I thought was possible. I always thought, and again, we talked in a prior episode about how this was in the early 90s, how gay was a curable disease.
Right.
That was the model, that I was operating under. And so I really thought that there would be some sort of a treatment that I could pray
Mhm.
and that I would be cured.
Did that instantly end your engagement?
Well, I ended my engagement. Yes.
that point.
Yes. I told her, and it was actually funny. She's the most amazing woman, absolutely amazing. Her parents were actually incredibly supportive. Her
Okay.
mom worked at a psychiatrist's office. She found a psychiatrist that my parents and I went to and
Okay.
just sort of had a discussion. And I think it was very clear. He met with me for an hour, then met with my parents, and was very clear and was like, look, your son's gay, you're not gonna be able to change it. And you can either have him in your life or not have him in your life.
Okay.
And so that was just, I think that has always been in the back of their minds as they dealt with different things about my life that they may not understand, that they may wish were different. They've always known that they need to accept me,
Yeah.
in order
Yeah.
to have that relationship.
Yeah. And it's that way with kids in just about anything.
Mhm.
We're not born to fulfill our parents' dreams.
Right.
So, okay. So let me do this. Let me ask you, without questions, let me just ask you to take a couple of minutes and tell us about that experience of coming out and what was positive, what was negative, and what followed.
Okay. So what was positive for me was, first off, I didn't kill myself.
That's a good
So
thing.
that's a very good.
National Suicide Hotline works, folks. I've called them.
Yeah, Trevor Project.
Yes,
Look it
that's
up.
great. Yeah.
So that obviously was a huge positive. And it was interesting because that core circle of friends,
Mhm.
I think just there's almost that moment of we just all just agree. I don't know. I don't know
Okay.
if that makes sense to
It
you.
does.
You
that
know,
sense of
where you
relief.
just sort of felt like you just had this
Yeah.
this tightness in your
Yes.
chest
Yes.
and everything that just all of a sudden it's just and yeah, things are difficult, but you have the inner energy and that inner light to be able to deal with these things.
I'm
And
feeling better already.
that for me was the transformation, was just that. Okay, I don't know if you've ever had a huge weight on your shoulders and done something where and then you tell someone or you do something and it's just literally the weight falls off and
Yeah.
you just are like, you realize at that point how much weight you were carrying.
Right.
And how much that had been affected. And I can imagine that was like that for you when you sort of stood up in front of that congregation and said, I am resigning and here's why.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a difficult road, and I'm sure you had challenges, but at
I
that
did.
moment, what did you feel like in that moment when you came out?
Um, I felt a little nervous, but I felt very confident at the same time
Hmm.
because I'd spent so much time the previous week or two, but specifically the previous week, praying and seeking God and spending time with God. And that bolstered me. And I knew it was the last step in me being true to myself.
Mm.
And I knew, like you said, the path of not being true to myself is literally the path to death. And so uh, it was that final fulfillment, because once I'd done that, I didn't have to hide it anywhere anymore.
Right.
Instead of being one thing here and one thing there, and that double life,
Right. Right.
and like you said, that tightness
Mhm.
and the burden on your shoulders. Yeah, every
Right.
bit of what you said. So
Yeah.
so, but you failed utterly, because I said no questions from me. Tell us about your experience, and then you started asking me questions.
You said you weren't going to interrupt me with questions. I didn't
Yes.
realize I couldn't ask you questions.
No, we want your experience now.
Oh,
So,
gosh.
so
okay.
you came out,
Right.
and the fireworks and the band played. What happened?
Yeah, and the band played on. I don't want to overstate, and sort of suggest that it was super easy for me, because it wasn't. I was just saying I had this new spirit that I do think God gave me when I sort of listened to God and sort of accepted the path that God had chosen for me to follow. And then everything else was navigable. I was able to figure it out. I had that confidence, maybe as you call it, that spark that enabled me to move forward. Yeah. And then also I did so at a point that it was really a huge transition moment for me, where I was moving from college, where I had lived with roommates and I was 30 minutes from home, to what was in my future was moving to Syracuse, New York. I was going to start a new graduate school program, the Master's of Public Administration at the Maxwell School. And it was I could have this, that I could just be this new Brian at this place. And so I was also, no matter what was happening now, I knew I had that to look forward to, and that I could make it.
Okay, now that sounds like a key point. You were able to put college behind you,
Right.
and then come out. You came out in college, though.
Right. Right.
So
probably like April before I graduated.
Okay, just before the end.
Yeah.
Okay, and so the people knew, but they either had to accept it or not. They didn't have time to do much harm.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, did that feel kind
Right.
of intentional, or was that thought going through your mind?
I just think it happened that way, and it was really, my frustrations sort of were reaching a peak at the springtime, because that's when all the guys were on campus biking and running without shirts, and that's when like the wintertime everybody's covered, and you really it really wasn't going as crazy, but that was just.
Do you know what the fine is for an old lady chasing down a guy running?
Tell me.
I do. No, I don't. So so you went to where you were going, and now you're introducing yourself.
Right.
For the first time in your life, you're introducing yourself as you.
Right.
And you still have, do you still have fear of non-acceptance?
This is the interesting part, I think, because the program that I was in was basically all people interested in government service. Mm-hmm. And you had people pretty high up who were working for senators. Mm-hmm. Two people were working for a Delaware senator.
Okay.
And so I think in that environment, I felt like there were enough people, and a majority of people, it was sort of at the time that Clinton was running for his first presidency. And there was just this sort of enthusiasm that I felt sort of as we were going to move away from the Reagan-Bush years towards maybe a Democratic presidency. And I just felt this liberalization generally at society. It was one of those pivot moments again, I think, in our society. And there I just felt comfortable.
So the social changes, political changes, cultural changes, and personal changes kind of all came together.
Yeah.
Okay.
I sort of liken it to, maybe what happened at the beginning of this year. I think things felt dramatically different for me, like in January of this year when Biden came into office.
Okay.
I just felt like we were, really sort of starting down.
Well, and then we had the promise of a
we had vaccines.
Vaccine, that's the word.
Yeah, things were very promising. So that's sort of a similar time. Maybe people can relate. We have a lot of younger listeners who have no idea what 1992 would have felt like. But that was the moment in time that I was undergoing in my life. And, then you had Clinton's inaugural address. Like that would have been in beginning of 93, but Clinton was
Yeah.
mentioning gay people, and you had
Right.
a politician who was winning, who was mentioning gay people,
Right.
and it just seemed like we were at a really pivotal time in our society. So I
Yeah.
was out there, and it was fantastic. I really didn't get, and again, I knew I was only going to be there for a short time because that program is, like a calendar year 15-month program.
Okay.
So, and it was Syracuse, New York, and I had no friends, no family. It was a unique opportunity for me to just experiment and be myself. And
Okay.
if, things didn't work out, I knew I was going to be leaving there within a year, and I
Okay.
felt like I could put up with anything. So I did create for myself little opportunities
Okay.
where I could experiment in a safe environment. And maybe that's a key. And that's a key consideration for
Okay.
people, is to try to make sure they create for themselves opportunities like that.
Opportunities, give me more detail. For relationships, for friendships, for
Well,
liaisons?
let's say that I were still in South Carolina and I were still sort of around the same people,
Yes.
then I was still near my family. There would just have been a lot more risk because, and even now, like, and my parents don't like if I post something on Facebook, or my mom's super private about things.
Yeah.
So even if she were to watch this, she'd be like, why are you mentioning me, on your video? So I think that's what it was. And,
Okay.
I guess maybe just encourage people, if you feel like location is, being here, being your family, being near like people who know you and all that stuff, if that's holding you back, maybe try to take a huge risk and do something crazy.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, when one moves to a new place,
Yes.
so for example, I came to Greenville in March of
Mhm.
2020.
Yeah.
COVID was starting to rage.
Oh, wow.
All right, and I lived at a rural place with some friends
Okay.
until I got my own place in town in February.
Mhm.
So I was there, almost a year.
Okay.
And then in February, I moved into town
Mhm.
and in a more central location.
Mhm.
So, um, how do you go about when you move to a new place and you're wanting to experiment and find,
Right.
fully understand your identity within the context of people who will accept you,
Right.
and maybe within the context of people who share that identity?
Right.
Do you look in do you
Well,
Google?
I don't know. I really have a good answer for that. I can
Okay.
tell you. Let me sort of tie this back to what we were talking about when we're talking about new school years.
Yeah.
When you're at a new school, when you're at a new place,
Okay.
a lot of times you're also around people in that same dynamic. So
Right.
it's like all of these people, no one had really knew anybody. We're all
Okay.
sort of in a new place that no one really was from or lived there. We all knew we were going to be there for a short time. And so it was a really tight knit group of people who were all, just kind of functioning, we're all on the same page. And that's what really helped. So,
Okay.
maybe as people are going back to school, maybe this is the time for them to, experiment, try something different, do something, because, you are in an environment where everybody's really in that same place of, you don't know what the year is going to hold.
Right.
So, we'll probably need to do another episode where we answer your question.
Okay.
But I think
It's
for
a
me,
different
it's sort of,
question.
yeah, it's a very
It
different
is.
question, I think.
Yeah.
And not one that sort of my experience in that regard, is really suited to handle. So if
Okay.
we're sort of but if we focus on sort of what our class, our, talk is about today, and that school year and new opportunities, then I think, maybe just encouraging people to consider, how this new school year, how a new, kind of experience like that might be helpful as you sort of explore who you are.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've enjoyed the conversation, and
Yeah,
I
thanks so much.
appreciate you sharing your story.
Yeah.
And you have a delightful story. You have a book that tells the story, don't you?
It is. I didn't realize you were going to say that, and I really didn't think about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do have a book that I wrote, it's a very fictionalized account of sort of coming out my senior year. But it's a huge departure, but it's definitely inspired by true events.
Okay.
And probably some of the kookier stuff that happens in the story that just like, well, this is weird. That's probably taken
The true
from
part.
the
Yeah,
from
the cookie part's the true part.
like the really weird kind of things that come up.
Is that book for sale somewhere? Or
Oh,
I
let
know.
me tell you. So let me tell you.
Well, I've got an idea.
So we are doing a
If-
book club on that
Oh,
in the month of October, November.
okay.
We are going to have a book club, so I can promo that I can put a little, I'll put a little tag for it at the end of the video today.
Okay, and
So-
we is the LGBTQ plus
Right,
group.
right.
At First Baptist of Greenville. Okay, so what you don't want me to tell them that if they will send for their gift of $50, we will send them the book and a prayer cloth dipped in something. Holy water from somewhere, we'll find it.
I don't know. And for $100, you get a nice Hello Gorgeous mug. All right, Terry clearly is missing some of her old
Yes,
revival
I need to go back sometime.
televangelist
Yeah.
days here. So
Anyway, but
Well,
our
thanks.
time's about up.
yep, our time's up. So
thank
as
you.
always, such a great time chatting
Yeah.
with you. And are you gonna let me do the honors of taking us out today, or are you gonna take us
Well,
out?
no, because we're focusing on you today. Give us something profound. Youngin.
I will. Be who you are, because everybody else is taken.
Oh, I like that. Thanks. I'm Terry and
Brian,
and we've had a great time chatting.
thanks, y'all. Ah, Miss Terry.
Yeah, I was trying to manage the time.